Pops in a pod. Pops in a pod.
Hey everyone, Nadir Pop here.
And Peter Pop.
Peter, it's that time of the year again where everything goes red. And no, I'm not talking about an early Christmas.
Yeah, man. Honestly, I did the groceries the other day, and you can't even get away from the color red while doing groceries now.
Yeah, it's Valentine's Day. Now, in the last episode, we teased who our guests are. So, Peter, you know our guests really, really well. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about them?
Well, to start off with, I'm very happy to have my good friend, Anurag Tagat, who's to most people known as a music journalist. And I've been really glad to know him for many years now. And he's also been on my other podcast, which focuses on heavy metal music called Horns Up, multiple times. I think I've lost count now. Now, for the first time, I'm also going to be recording with his wife, Jaanam, who works in the digital marketing space. Wow, I think we're going to start a support group by the end of this episode. In her previous role, she actually produced a podcast and actually hosted one also. So I'm very glad to have both of them on the podcast. Welcome to popsinapod, Anurag and Jaanam.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Nadir. It's a really interesting concept that you guys have going here, and glad to be part of it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be on a podcast after 3 years, I think. The last time I was on a podcast was in 2019, so this is fun, yeah.
We don't know if we should be thanking you or should we be saying sorry to you to get you on the podcast.
I'm always glad to be back. But yeah, very rarely I've been a guest. It's mostly been hosting or co-hosting. So.
And the podcast world is so small, and if I have to even take a step back, the media world in Bombay, right? Because it's literally like 6 degrees of separation. So it's no surprise that when we were talking before this recording, we realized we all have a common connection, who is, we very fondly dubbed the podcasting queen of India, none other than May Thomas. And what was also funny for us to find out when we were talking to you guys is that she played a role, since we're keeping with the Valentine's Day team, she played Cupid for both of you. So come on, who wants to tell us the story? I'd love to hear from both of you.
I feel it was accidental Cupid. I don't think even she's
Intentional. Yeah.
she's too aware about it also that this has happened. But yeah, like I was the exact moment when we sort of connected was when I was producer of Made in India, and Anurag had written an article about me, and like I was producer and I was also handling the social media for Made in India. So I was supposed to put out this article and tag Anurag. And yeah, like easily found him on Twitter, and I think I like found him, I followed him. And then I'm searching for him on Instagram and he's not there. So then I messaged me and I asked her like, hey, this guy is not on Instagram, like can you check with him? And I think she messaged him and tried to verify like, hey, are you present here? And then he's like, no, I'm not. And then
pretty
I think
much.
he'll tell you his side of that conversation.
I mean, yeah, basically interviewed me because she was obviously running a lot of things, and I'd also been asked to write about her in a sense because like you said, she does so much work in the podcast space, and specifically indie music. She's been a champion for indie music. So yeah, like I figured I would do a profile on somebody who I would consider my peer in the industry, and that was really fun. But yeah, like what I didn't realize was that it would lead to something like this, in the sense of her wanting to promote the article, and then she asked me if I was on Instagram. I said I haven't. By that point, like I never wanted to join Instagram. Like I was. I guess I just felt like it was another sort of social media place where you would just get harangued, and then like you just don't. You'll get like tons of DMs, which is now the case now that I have joined Instagram. So yes, the rumors. I mean, everything is true about that. But yeah, it was pretty much that. Like I think we sort of connected on that level when I saw like who was following me on Twitter. Like I obviously get all my notifications. So yeah, like when I saw that she was following me on Twitter and that she was a producer on Made in India, I think like yeah, like I connected the dots there and just felt like, oh, like she probably read the article. At that point I wasn't even thinking that she had to do it as a job obligation. I just thought, oh, somebody read the article and maybe now like wants to connect with me. So yeah, like then I just sort of like followed her back because I figured like somebody from the indie music space, somebody who's working on Made in India would be, yeah, definitely worth following. And she was definitely like tweeting a lot of funny stuff. I think that was like
when the lockdown had just started, like it was March, April 2020. So
yeah, that's true.
yeah.
I guess there were a lot of pandemic related jokes and things like that. So yeah, like I was, it was the pandemic though by then, I think more or less.
Yeah, so I want to actually jump in quickly and kind of set some more context to this whole thing, right? Is what stages in life were you in? Like, were you all at that point, like, looking actively to date? Were you on like dating apps and stuff like that? Or was it just like, okay, it's the pandemic, we're stuck at home.
So at that time I wasn't on any dating app. I was in fact not even looking for anything. I was just focused on work. I was done with the dating scene completely. I had given up on the concept of decent men. I had yeah, like just so done with
Damn.
the male species in general. So yeah.
Yeah, so she made a pretty big exception, basically. But it was pretty much one of those. I think for me, like I was in that space where probably was on some apps, but I had given up hope on them as well, like quite a while ago. Especially, I think once the pandemic started, I was just like, yeah, there's no point like even opening this app anymore and things like that. But I guess in a sense, like I've always been open to like whatever happens, like connections wise. So like I was still open that way and like just making conversations here and there. But knowing that the pandemic was looming it gave me that sort of frame of mind that I was just like no expectations, like we're literally in a bloody pandemic, so it's not gonna like you're not probably gonna meet anybody anytime soon.
Yeah, like no contact with anyone, no getting out. And that was that was the period where the government had just shut everything. Nobody was allowed outside on the roads. It was just silent. It was when Bombay experienced like no traffic sounds and birds were chirping. It was that phase where
Yeah, and it's really funny though because like I do remember on one of the apps like that I was somehow still using. Like I remember I did get one match and somebody asked, would you be okay to meet if things opened up, during the pandemic. And at that point, we were not even thinking about vaccines and stuff. This was like the first few months.
Wow, this is then. So I actually remember because this all kind of dates back to the first episode actually we did with a couple of our friends. Actually, someone you also know, Anurag, where Aditya Rao. And he was telling us how on certain apps, you actually put up whether your status was vaccinated or not. So it became like a pre-qualifier of sorts in there.
Yeah, like I mean, I appreciate the directness of the person, but they just asked that, like, would you be open to meet? And I said probably no, like till I'm vaccinated or something like that. And yeah, they just immediately unmatched, and I was like, okay, that's great. Somebody has their priorities.
That's so direct. Like with the whole digital thing, I mean, I don't think there's even any effort, right? Like there's absolutely no effort left. And I mean, I don't know if it's easy or not, since Peter and I both have never sort of been in that. We never came across that phase of dating apps or anything, right? But when we heard Samreen and Aditya talk about it and the experiences, that okay, it's kind of it's very much like a shopping list where you're just like no, okay, I don't like it, yeah, okay, maybe, yeah, okay. And I was like, wow, that's amazing, right? It's like Amazon for people. I mean, like shopping for people. Okay, add to cart. Right, but
Yeah, I mean,
it's also very monotonous because you're having the same conversation over and over almost with everybody. So every time you're like,
Yeah,
hey,
news.
what do you do? Where are you from?
yeah,
Like those kind of
it
questions.
kind
just
of
like
takes
there
you
is
back
answer
to MSN Messenger, right? ASL, right? When you had that, and it's like everyone you just randomly just send that. But another thing common between at least Anurag and me is the fact that I think both of us sort of started our romantic journey on social media. I found my wife on Facebook, and that's the most unlikely things that I have, very uncharacteristic of me, because I was not a very social media kind of a person, right? And I just sent that request to her saying, oh my god, I don't know what's gonna happen, let me just kind of figure. And then I just started making up these random excuses as to why I added her on Facebook, because you need to kind of accept. And
So, wait, how long back was this?
this was back in 2012, 11,
Oh.
yeah, 11, 12.
And did you have any mutual friends, or you just...
So there was a strange story.
Wait. In today's term, let me put it. He slid into her
Whoa.
DMs.
Nice.
Yeah, no, completely. So yes, there was a mutual friend, and that mutual friend, we had also just like met, and then she added me on Facebook, and then I was going. It was a thing, right? That you check out all the photos, and then I was like, who is that, right? And then I I kind of found her, and I was like, interesting. I must have got a profile, and then her profile was also, I guess, open. There was no such thing as open close at that point in time, so you could just kind of randomly stalk all the photos. I was like, very interesting. Let me kind of hit her. And then I made this elaborate lie of how my cousin sister's name is also my wife's name, and then it could have just been a mistake. But hey, now that we're connected, might as well chat. So yeah.
Yeah. So Nadir basically owes his marriage and his life to Mark Zuckerberg.
So you had a similar experience, but obviously not in such a stalkerish manner.
Yeah. Well, yeah, basically, like, I guess I was at that, like I said, I was at that stage where I was always open to, like, speaking to people, and I usually generally am anyway, like, especially in the indie space, like, I owe, like, a lot of my friendships to, like, just being in this space, so... and now I owe my marriage to that in a way as well. So it's quite something. Yeah. But this is actually like I think I saw some of the tweets that she was like putting out there, and obviously they were funny. So I don't know what kind of impulse it was, but something like basically made me feel like, like at this point, like if I'm following her and if she's following me, like you should say something, like you got to make contact at some point. But I guess I realized it, like, as I was doing it, that it was a little more like flirtatious than anything else. Like,
Yeah.
it just came across as somebody saying,
But wait, this is in all the years I know Anurag, a completely different side of him I'm finding out. Janam, what was it for you? Because you said like you had kind of given up on the male species, right? So here's someone who, like you very nicely said, and I kind of forgot, has a verified account on Twitter, following you back, and then like initiating contact. What was that like?
So honestly, I follow a lot of people from the scene, so I don't remember the moment when I followed him and he followed me back. I don't that memory is not clear, but the memory of him replying to one of my tweets, that's what I remember. And like I already knew who Anurag was, at least by name, like back in 2015 or 16, because I was already working in different aspects of the space. So yeah, I mean, you just see his name pop up so often on Rolling Stone, the website. So yeah, like I had heard of him and had some mutual contacts also. And yeah, so when he replied to my tweet, I was just a little taken aback. Like, why is this person replying so flirtatiously, publicly, on like Twitter to something I've said, and this person doesn't even know me. So
yeah, that's true. Like, yeah, I guess like that's where it was. Like, as I think as I was fully aware that also that anything I would reply to would be very much public. Like, it would show up on everybody's timeline, whoever's following me, basically.
yeah, and whoever's like checking it and comes across it.
Yeah, totally.
probably.
That's true.
But yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, you're saying that it's very uncharacteristic of him to do something like this, but obviously I had no idea who Anurag is beyond just a journalist. So when he did that, I was like, hai koi, or just another guy trying his luck, that's just because that's what all women face. Everybody, all of us are just like constantly.
Yeah, and honestly, I have to like really admit, because it took a lot of like, I guess, dating my wife, being married to her for so many years now, to actually realize that this is a complete side of the internet that us as guys are completely unaware of. Like, we'll never get women sending us a hi, or anybody for that matter. Like, it's not even just women. No one randomly sends us HIII and no reply, right? Or just like someone giving you random missed calls if they got you your number and stuff like that. As guys, you just take it as complete like this. So I mean, we've got first impressions in there. Let's kind of skip forward. How did like things kind of go further? Because let's put this into context. We're still under lockdown, right? Like, this was easily, I think, what we're talking mid 2020, where it was severe lockdown. Like, you can't get out at all, so you're literally stuck in your four walls. Nadir and I have talked a lot about our experiences, and we were talking from a parent's perspective. But what was it like for you guys?
Also different cities. I was in Bombay, he was in Bangalore. So
Yeah. So
that was
yeah,
definitely like one,
like very apparent sort of thing.
yeah.
Because yeah, like I mean, I think I probably do remember like when I followed her and stuff, and I was like, all right, she's in Mumbai. So like yeah, that was definitely like apparent. Like I think those are things that you anyway subconsciously like like imbibe, right? Like because you're just like, okay, like somebody else in a different city, but a city that like I'm also from in that sense. Like I lived in Bombay and stuff. So yeah, it was. I think after that, like it was just like me replying and then like just not getting. I think like she replied and then I was just like the conversation. I quickly realized was like that's not how it works. Like nothing's gonna happen just because like you like you send a GIF on the internet. Like nothing happens because of that. But so then like I had a friend who I was speaking to at the time and I told him that like I'm sort of trying to speak to this person. And he was like, yeah, just go in, just send her a message directly now. And, just like, he like sort of coached me on like this whole elaborate scenario again, like similar to what Nadir was saying. Like, like,
This situation always has that guy, right? Always. There's always that guy who's saying, Are kar, yeah, no problem, just go for it. Like a hype man.
So basically, you had like a Mr. Hitch, right? Like
Pretty much.
was he that?
Pretty much. I mean, and the thing, it's not like I'd taken advice from him before or anything. So, this was just like, I mean, not this kind of advice where you would literally be like, like
Right.
write this. Like it would be like, why don't you say this or why don't you like do that? So yeah, it was like one of those things, and so I did that. Like I took his advice and like I laid out this whole like long one-sided conversation about like which the punchline was supposed to be about like taking her out or like asking her if I could take her out to this place, and like I think like it bombed so badly, like I think like
Oh man!
it would yeah
Wait, do you remember this entire thing,
Very
Jana?
vaguely. I remember something.
No, no. The beauty of this conversation is that you will always get his side and her side simultaneously. So now I want Janam to react to that. Wait, what just happened? Okay, so at what point did Janam realize that? Okay, you know what? Something's happening. Okay, let me also try and sort of make the first move and see where it goes, how it happens.
I feel there were sort of multiple moments during our conversation when that happened. One of the things was like he was always there, whenever I wanted to talk to someone, he was just there. And again, this is like a complete stranger online I haven't met, but obviously have some mutual connections with, so some sort of credibility is there. But again, I don't know this person. And
after that
yeah,
we were like
like
अरे काम नहीं है क्या भाई सब बैठ के बात कर रहे
yeah,
हैं
like part of me was like that, but then part of me was also like, damn, this guy is verified, he's a journalist, he's got shit to do, and he's just replying to me. So like, immediately, like, when there are times when guys just take like half an hour, 1 hour, sometimes 3 hours to get back to your message. This guy was just so prompt. And I was like, wow, like, this is
I mean,
I like that there were no games, like no mind games,
yeah, but like
just so
I'm,
out there.
yeah, like I'm like that with everybody. Like I
That's
reply
what
to
I realized
everybody
later.
immediately. Like I'm not like,
Now the next time Anurag doesn't reply to me immediately, I'll be like, damn.
You should tweet him, Peter. Maybe he'll
I
respond
just
immediately then.
I'm coming back to this because it's kind of very hard not to like get away from the whole context of the pandemic, right? I mean, when you're talking about like people not responding for 3 hours, if you're in a city like Bombay, that's basically from going one end of town to the other end for work or things like that, right? Here you're kind of stuck in there. And it's also strange. I'm also bringing back our conversation that we had with Aditya and Samreen, where they were talking about how dating on dating apps was very different. So, and also when you take into context the fact that you all met on Twitter, or at least initiated conversation on Twitter, let's be honest, Twitter is not like the place it was even 5 years ago. It's basically a hellhole at this point, right? So that also kind of brings me in there. How did things, because again, you're not only doing long distance of sorts, but you're also like now there's no possibility of actually meeting. And it's not only possibility, just the uncertainty, right? What kind of impact did that have just in terms of the conversations you're having, or the kind of depth of the conversation probably that you all were having with each other, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, you all had not even seen each other's face, no video calls and anything, right? Which is in like 2020, that's like kind of unheard of. So tell us about that.
Or you want to? I mean, for me, I was just like again, like you said, the uncertainty of the pandemic. We were certain about the fact that we want to meet. We just obviously didn't know when and how that would happen. But I was just, from my end, I was just like, if we're meeting, I would just rather meet face to face, because if the moment you add that like video thing, like the video call, then like every day or video calling, and you're just pining more for this, just to be with this person, and I'm just like, no, just like let's just stick to audio calls, and
yeah.
like just
I think at the same time, like it was also because of the pandemic, like we were, just like let's just see where it goes and let's take it like one day at a time sort of thing, So, like I think that was definitely helpful in the way of like just like having that daily perspective or just whatever regular perspective of not being like, oh, like where like like that whole very rom-com kind of shit going on with like we'll probably like meet someday and now I can't wait to meet you and things like that. Like I mean we did feel those things, but at the same time we sort of like weighed it against like
practicality.
Practicality and not getting COVID basically. So I think that was one of the that was how it was playing out, I think. But like most people during the pandemic, I think we had like a lot of stuff we could do online, which a lot of other people were doing online, like playing
Scrabble.
like playing Scrabble together, or like playing Ludo together. And
You've just endorsed both these games so hard, right? Like I'm waiting for this moment, like right after this episode goes live. Both these games are like, we brought this couple together, like play our game. Complete pivot.
I think Wordle is sort of leading that conversation right now in terms of romance and
Yeah.
so
And like it's such a different perspective you're bringing in, right? Because like I'm going to contrast that with Nadir and me. We were sitting at home, we had our kids, we had our wives, family and things like that, and you're just trying to like figure how do you manage in this four walls per se, right? So perspective is very different what you guys are bringing in. But I want to fast forward because I want to know that moment where both of you actually saw each other. Like, was it like the movies? Was it? I'm sure it's not like any of the Bollywood movies where you all ran into each other's arms and all of that. But what was it like? I'm very curious to know.
So he came to Bombay to meet me. This was in the month of November, and we decided to do November because it was his birthday month, my birthday month. He has a twin brother who stays in Bombay, so obviously celebrating that birthday together.
His
partner's birthday in November and Diwali in November, so just everything. And yeah, like thankfully I know how to drive, so I went like that time obviously like public transport and all was too risky to take, so I used to drive down to meet him. And the first time we met was with masks on. So we met
Yeah.
on the road, in fact, like, I mean, not
Outside
on
the
the
building,
road,
yeah.
but yeah, like just below his brother's building. And yeah, like I stepped out of my car, I saw him, and he was crossing the road, and we just hugged near my car.
Yeah.
And we got in and went out for lunch. And
Yeah, that was the first restaurant that we had gone to in like ever since the pandemic started.
yeah.
So
I,
we
I
were,
have to ask you, have you all been cheesy and saved that bill? Just like,
no, actually. And we don't even, yeah, man, like it was just like one of those things where the pandemic was weighing so much on us. We were just like, let's just get out of here as soon as
Yeah.
possible. So,
But then at that point, the first physical meeting, y'all were already like together.
yeah, pretty much like we had decided that, like that we would meet and that we would definitely like go out or spend time together and do things and just sort of, yeah, like I guess like yeah, just see like how real like things
Yeah.
are like in that way.
But before that, and it's nice that now we finally know someone who's actually been through this journey. And there was one question that I really wanted to understand, that when it comes to dating, when it comes to finding a partner and then finally settling, either through institutional means as as a marriage or just continuing, right? How do you judge a person, right? And you've been through this entire process where you all haven't met each other physically for the first time you all have met, but you're constantly judging somebody or the other. I mean, it's already a complicated process, but with the whole lockdown and pandemic, I'm sure it must have been even more complicated. So what were you guys thinking of when you all started chatting and talking more and more often? Like, were you all judging each other like, oh my god, kaise niklegi ya kaisa niklega types?
Not really. For me, he was just so easy to talk to. Just so, uh, just like it. I hadn't come across such a good and genuine listener. Yeah, for me it was just that, like, it was just sort of, it felt, even though that we were apart and hadn't met and we were just chatting mostly, at least the first few months were just chatting only, in fact, before we even spoke on the phone and heard each other's voice. So, uh, that phase for me, like even just virtual texts, right? It was just so comforting to just talk and just talk to each other about our days. And I was actually going through a very difficult time when we connected in April, because like my cat was really sick, and for a whole month, and he passed away at the end of the month. So yeah, like Anurag was just there for me, throughout that time. And it was, yeah, it was just, I was just really glad to have him.
what about you, Anurag?
Yeah, I mean, I think like with me, like I would only bring in the perspective of like just your life experiences so far and things like that. Like, like everything you've been through in life will obviously like then lead to like what you think about the next, sort of like situation. So, like I guess, like I said before, also like I was treating it as like a literally no expectations sort of thing, because A, like we were in the pandemic, and B, like I figured like at that stage in my life I was just like, yeah, no expectations whatsoever. But like I think like when you know that like yeah, I guess like you eventually arrive at a moment where you're close enough that you feel like you want to tell somebody about how you really feel and things like that. So like obviously in this case like I was the one to tell her that yeah, like I love you. So like I I was
Oh, you were the first one, huh?
yeah. And like I sort of said it in that way as well. Like I think that I said that like this is how I feel, and it's okay like if you don't feel that way right now and all those kind of things, because literally like we were just talking over the phone.
Yeah,
Like
he told me I love you by just phone audio conversations.
yeah, so this probably like goes back to some other era. If after Twitter, like after Twitter, we went even further back basically. Uh,
Anurag transported back to the 60s, like straight back. but I must bring in this, right? Because in our last episode, we were actually talking to a gentleman, Vivan Marwa. And the reason why actually we initially talked to him was So he's written a book called What Millennials Want. And he was talking from like a larger India perspective, where he said a lot of people, especially millennials today, still prefer to have arranged marriages because they cannot afford to fall in love. And that was such a contrasting experience. I mean, we're talking about, both of you falling in love in Bangalore and Bombay, and it's so different and so detached in there. But another thing that's important in marriages in India, irrespective of whether it's love or arranged, are the parents. Like, you can't get away from the parents, right? So what is it like breaking the news to your parents? I mean, like, I'm just trying to imagine talking to my dad and be like, hey, I met someone on Twitter. But I was like, what? Twitter? You met someone on Twitter? And yeah, we're in love. We want to get married. Or what is that conversation like? I'm very curious.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the only thing I would preface this with tying into what you said before this was that, like, I think we definitely come from places of privilege where, like, not just even in our folks, like, being more open and accepting of these kind of things, but even just us having the privilege of being able to connect online, or just like to speak at that level, or to, have those past experiences which inform how we behave today and those kind of things. But I would say that, like, my folks were completely fine with it. Like, I've always been open with them in terms of whatever is going on with me, like if there is anybody and things like that. So I think in this case, like, in this case, like, I had to tell them,
Yeah.
because like, they were trying to, in fact, they had a family friend who was trying to set me up with somebody.
Whoa, kahani mein twist.
Yeah, that's how the news broke to his folks. 'Cause-
Actually, yeah, like, because like when that was sort of like brewing, I told my folks, like, I can't say anything to this because, like, I am in fact seeing somebody and she's in Bombay, and I don't know how. But I was also honest about them in the sense that, like, I don't know how that's gonna go. I don't know where that's gonna go, but like, I know that I have to do that first, and then, like, aage ka aage dekhenge kind of vibes.
So forgive me for asking you this, but how did you feel about this entire situation, Jaanam? Because it's not easy, right? Especially like was this before you all met or after you all met?
Before, yeah, this was
Wow, that's
few
tough.
months before we met.
Yeah,
proper.
it's maybe September or
Yeah, probably
August,
like
September.
like August, July, August,
Yeah.
something. Yeah, and
I don't know. I don't know about you, but like, I would be terribly uncomfortable in a
Yeah.
situation like this, right?
Yeah, I mean, I in fact, no, wait, I actually told him, do you want to consider it?
Yeah.
Like, because I said, see, we are anyway long distance. If that person is in Bangalore, maybe that is more feasible and,
Okay, I'm prefacing this filmy line again. If you love, let it go. If it comes back, it was that one of those
Okay.
but
moments
then
for
I
you.
was like, how does that make any sense? Because we're in a pandemic. I'm not going out to meet somebody just to see if there's any interest there. When I know that I already am interested in somebody, even if they're in a different city. So, like, that's the. I mean, I was really, I guess, in a nice way, surprised that she wanted to, like, still wanted me to go and meet some third person. But like, I was pretty sure that I
Yeah.
would, like, finish this and then, like, like, see this out, see how this plays out, and then
Right.
go on with it.
Yeah, I mean, when he said that, I was very glad. I was relieved.
Mom, keep her number saved just in case, 6 months down the line.
Anurag, this is very
Vaccine.
strange, but something very similar happened to me also. I don't know, it's some cosmic thing that's going on here, or I'm not, because it's so something similar happened with me also. I didn't upfront go and tell my parents because I didn't know what's gonna happen, right? Like, from Facebook to face, I'm not sure what's gonna happen, but yeah, I mean, this whole arranged situation was kind of happening at my end as well. So I'm just waiting for a few more milestones in your story, and I'm just going to check if we match, and then I'm going to go and do some DNA testing and see whether we come from the same gene pool.
It's simple. I know the rest of this. Anurag starts a podcast. In-house producer is there.
Possible. Yes. Yeah, like an ex-producer right here.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But
Yeah.
but yeah.
So you're saying, actually, just to kind of recap, your parents were kind of open about it. What about yours, Janam? Like, what did, especially considering, like, This is someone not like even with the friend circle or someone in Bombay for that matter, right?
Yeah, for me, my dad passed away when I was like 15.
Oh, I'm
So
so sorry about that.
pretty much throughout my dating life, he's like, yeah, obviously not been around. But my mom, when it happened, like I didn't tell her till we met, till he and I met in person. I didn't break the news to her till that moment. So it was very tricky for me because firstly I was in the lockdown. I had quit my job at Made in India back in May only, end of May or something. And from June onwards, I was unemployed. I was sitting at home, not getting out, uh, can't meet anybody, no social life. And then suddenly he's coming down in November to Bombay, and I have to get out and meet him. And I have to cook up a story like, why am I stepping out? So I told my mom that, hey, I'm going for a job interview. This is the company, this is the profile. Uh, this is where the office is, and I'm taking the car. I'll be back. I'm just going in the morning. I'll probably be back in a few hours. So I go, I meet him, and we go have lunch. Then we go to his brother's place. And first date only, I met his brother and his sister-in-law, and yeah, that's something I've never done before, ever. I don't think many people do that. Like first
good
time you
reason,
meet
yeah.
a guy
Yeah.
and you're just meeting his family. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, they were really nice to have us over, and especially me, because yeah, they've been very careful throughout the pandemic. So just letting a stranger into your house in the first, yeah, like in November, it was pretty, yeah, it was nice. And then when I came back that evening, yeah, my mom's asking me, hey, so how was the interview? How did it go? How are the people? And then I I don't know. I just like I can't cook up any more lies apart from what I already told her before going for the interview. So I just tell her, okay, so I didn't go there. I have met someone, and then I was just ready for 1,000 questions after that. Just like who, what, where, what does he do, where is he from, what do his parents do, who's there in his family. Just like I don't know if guys, moms or dads or like your parents in general ask so many questions.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, 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 yeah.
I know there's another Nadir story coming up. But see, that's the thing, right? And I know we have some listeners abroad, so this is what it's like dating in India, right? Where if you tell your parents, and I think if I'm thinking about it, that's why typically I would attribute people once they're really certain about somebody, right? They'll definitely then announce it to their parents, because unlike Nadir, I had a similar story where I actually told my dad about it, and my dad, because I'm pretty sure he's going to listen to this, was, I quote, "Do you really love her?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." And he's like, "Good, don't break her heart." I was like, whose dad are you? I was like, mine. Like, how are you saying this? And I didn't know, like, what was he thinking? But that's what it's like dating in India, right? I think the moment you tell your parents, like, it's sealed, the deal is done. Like, the next step, get them engaged, roka, whatever you're kind of following, and then marriage, like, done. Was it like that for you guys?
sort of, yeah.
Sort of, but also not. Like in the sense
Yeah.
of, like, again, because the pandemic was going on, like in fact, like by the time I left Bombay, like my brother's building was like sealed down and stuff like that. So like, yeah, like they were like real. The pandemic was very much making its presence felt that way. So yeah, like I went back to Bangalore, and then like we were obviously trying to figure out when do we see each other again, and
I think February happened when you had some Red Bull.
yeah, like I came
Yes.
down to Bombay in February for an event for like a day and like a
2
few days.
days.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was just something that I think I was partly doing because I wanted to meet Janam, but also because there was finally an event happening that I could attend and be among like music folks again, like after like a year.
So I'm just thinking, like, you know how typically on cassettes and CDs you had a thank you list? Like, I think you and Anurag need to put out like a thank you list. Like, these are the people who made this relationship and marriage happen.
Yeah, and like in fact that February, the 2 days when
yeah.
he was here, he was put up in some hotel, and like I went to the airport, I picked him up, we went to the hotel, and I had actually packed my bags, and my mom packed dinner for us, so that like we actually got like a hot plate, and I'm making like heating food in the hotel room, and we're eating, and it was like a proper staycation,
Yeah.
but also in the middle of a pandemic, so.
Yeah, and it really meant a lot, like in that sense that somebody just wanted to. I mean, I'm not used to that, like I'm not used to somebody wanting to spend time with me, to put it quite plainly. So, yeah, it was really nice that, especially like when I was there for some other work, like somebody still, wanted to like spend time with me to that extent. So it was, yeah, it really meant a lot, and I think after that, like the next time we met was, in fact, like she had like really push forward her dates, and she was planning to come to Bangalore just to sort of scope out work, and also like just see like whether she actually likes Bangalore. She had been telling me that she likes Bangalore, but I was like, come and live here and then you can see. And so yeah, like she came in, you came in March basically,
March,
and that was just when the second wave was about to hit.
Yeah, the cases had just started rising, so it was mid March I was here, and my intention was to stay for a month, but the second wave was on till June, July almost.
Exact July, yeah. So like
Yeah, I
she
went
finally left in mid-July.
mid-July.
And yeah, it was really something, because again, like it gave us an opportunity to sort of like really live together and also figure out like what that's like. And I guess also like we were all like, because it was such a heavy lockdown, like it's not like, I mean, my parents are obviously there, they live in Bangalore as well, but like they couldn't come like that regularly or anything to meet us, and to meet Janam. But
Yeah, but we still managed, in that 4 months, I managed to meet a lot of his relatives and couple of cousins, and yeah.
yeah, it was really nice in the sense that we really got to do whatever we could in terms of family, and just I think like we went to like a few public places and things like that, so she could see Bangalore. We didn't go out actually, I think, to eat at a restaurant or anything, like so like
Yeah.
we didn't do like that date, out date night kind of thing. We didn't even do that.
Yeah, we've actually gone on dates, I think, after we got married. Is when we actually, apart from that, the first date we had in Bombay when we met the first time, we've we've rarely had like
Right. Yeah, that's true.
outside. We've gone for a movie once
Yeah.
outside.
So yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah, it's
these are,
very unconventional, I feel, but I also love it because you just, I feel I've spent, like when you're on a date with someone, you're just sort of a different person, but when you're at home, spending like day, night, waking up to this person, sleeping with this, like next to this person, it's just, it's a different reality.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? I mean, it's not like I can even talk about, because it seems like aeons ago that I went on dates. But literally, it's that person that you see on a date is probably just like this projection, or this person that they want you to see in there, right? And honestly, how much do you actually find out about someone over a couple of hours, over a meal, and things like that, right? It's the rest of that, and that's what I want to ask you. I mean, like, because I'm very curious, since you all kind of live together, right? What's that transition been like, or does it? Because if you think about it, technically we're still in the pandemic, right? So did it like, did marriage kind of just be like something? Okay, we got married. Now it's just usual in there. Has marriage not changed you or changed you at all? I'm very curious.
I feel both. In some ways, it has, in terms of, like, yeah, like the reality of, yes, this is long term, like really long term, or like forever, whatever, till death do us apart. That it's like that, and just the responsibility of being an adult and living together, and
Having a home to
yeah,
run.
yeah, like exactly, having a home to run, and just, yeah, like that part has changed, but in a good way. But apart from that, like the phase where we were living together, and between that and now, I don't see much difference. Like,
Yeah, I guess the only thing that's changed is like Janam was still looking for a job then, and now she has a job. So like I think that like those sort of things also like obviously take some adjusting to. Like I think like we were obviously aware of the fact that like that before like she had a lot more free time,
yeah,
and like she would like talk to me about so many things in the sense of like I want to do this and like I want to do that.
So basically, in short, no Scrabble Ludo post marriage.
now he got me hooked onto Pokemon Go.
Oh my god, it's
So
still around. I didn't
Oh
realize.
yes, I remember this was
Yeah.
yeah. Anurag was. I think Anurag's the guy keeping it going, right?
me, his brother, and his sister-in-law.
Yeah.
And I've just like joined the club now. So
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, I didn't like I tell her like you should play this game or anything. I think I did, but I wasn't like please
Yeah.
play this game with me or anything like that. I was just like I'm playing this game, which I've been playing my whole life. Because I mean, not my whole life. What am I saying? It feels like my whole life at this point. But yeah, since 2016. But yeah, it was just one of those things basically.
yeah, like actually, like we used to go out for walks in the night downstairs, and whenever we used to go down, he used to be playing on his phone. I used to be just walking next to him, and I would be like, what is this game? Like, what's the deal? And then one day I just gave it, and I was like, let me just see it for myself. Let me experience it. And yeah, I haven't looked back since then.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's still very much a thing, and I
Okay,
think
so I'm going to ask a bit of a controversial question, right? And considering it's not even been a year, so one thing I've noticed. Nadir, please confess or disagree if you would like. But I keep mentioning to my wife, right, is that when you're dating and then you get married in the start, you have very distinct personalities, right? And then suddenly when you get married, I know it's cliche to say two become one, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not joking. Things like habits, personality bits just rub off on each other. And now I'm talking 8 years later, right? Nadir, do you agree, disagree?
Listen, when my wife and I got married, there were some people who just assumed that we were brother sisters. So I have had it very different.
Snap. Oh, snap.
I feel there are a lot of couples I've seen that look very similar, and I think that's probably to do with that there is a theory that you feel attracted to somebody who looks like you. So that's
wow, that's freaky.
yeah.
But has that happened so far? Or if it hasn't, like, heads up, just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's one of those things where, like, especially because we're just living together and we're not, like, in terms of friend circles and things like that, like, I think, A, it's been limited anyway due to the pandemic, but B, also that, yeah, like, the number of people we would anyway go out and meet is not. I have, like, a handful of friends that I've made in Bangalore who I go out to meet. And, like, Jaanam, in fact, has one of her close friends from Bombay who moved
yeah.
to Bangalore.
Like my closest friend from school, like my best friend, she like our lives like since school have been so parallel, and she married somebody from Bangalore, and his name is also Anurag.
Oh my god, this is like.
And like so back in Bombay, she stays in Juhu, and then when she got married, she moved to Powai, and I was in Goregaon, so obviously not very close. But here, like she stays 10 minutes away from me, and yeah, like we moved to Bangalore just 2-3 months apart. Even she moved here, and I'm here, and it's just quite yeah, like it's just freakishly coincidental. I feel our lives. But
Yeah, but like I
yeah.
guess the point was that like yeah, like we didn't really, so we were just spending more time with each other. So I guess definitely like some habits like just like we take from each other, but I don't think anything in particular like sort of comes to mind as such. But
I think there were some common habits we already had that at least drew me to him. One was like we're both from the scene, but we don't drink, we don't smoke, we don't like I was already a vegetarian, he was vegan, so that was something I was wanting to like a lifestyle I wanted to adapt, but I wasn't able to on my own. But because he was already vegan, I was like, this is gonna be easier for me. So yeah.
Yeah, trust me. Like having shared a few meals with Anurag, that's one of the things you have to look for. It's like, hey, does it have vegan food also,
Yeah,
right?
so I'm also like constantly checking ingredients now, just going to the grocery store and being like, just does this bread have milk solids?
No, but I mean, I think food is such an important aspect. Like for some people, it's just off. Oh my God, you don't eat meat. No chance, it's not happening. And in your case, I think it just it fits in so well, right? And I think food is such a great conversation starter, but it can also kill relationships. So I mean, in your case, I think it worked well.
I think food is one thing we've really, it's like our foundation of our relationship, maybe food. It's just like, and because like I love cooking. I have really enjoyed cooking a lot, but I mostly do it on the weekends when I have the time. And I'm a slow cook, so I take my time. I'm chopping, I'm checking the recipe, I'm doing all that. So yeah, like I've got to explore a lot of food.
Anurag, we know. Thanks for the heads up. When I see Anurag in 6 months, I know what to expect.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, funnily enough, like, I also cook, but like, I cook in probably a different way in the sense of like, I don't follow recipes so much, or like, I'm usually,
One pot.
yeah, not so meticulous in like chopping or anything like that.
Yeah.
Those, small things.
But yeah, I mean, he's a good cook.
Basically.
It is.
So, honestly, I have to make this confession to both of you. One of our early episodes that we did was actually with a friend of Nadir's, and we were talking about Bollywood movies and the parallel between, the parenting aspects in there and all. And after we did the episode with Nadir's friend, Nadir told me that he's getting married. So, Nadir and I actually watched his wedding from the point of view of him getting into his wedding. And at that time, it occurred to me that, oh my God, this is so unique. I mean, because, in India, I mean,
It was on Zoom. The entire wedding was captured on Zoom.
yeah. Now, the thing is, Nadir and I kept thinking that, come on, other than him, there must have been so many people who got married, during the pandemic. What had this been like? Because we knew like two extremes, right? There were people who had these huge weddings and destination weddings, and then people who had to scale down their weddings and stuff like that. But we kept looking for people who actually, got married during the pandemic, because you can't get away from it, right? And then when we were talking, suddenly I realized, hey, not only did Anurag and Jaanam meet during the pandemic, they got married during the pandemic. So this episode has been a long time coming. So thanks so much for sharing your story with us, because it's so different. I mean, I don't know why there hasn't been one of those OTT platforms approached you to make one of these short films or stories as yet. But hey, you heard it first on popsinapod.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you so much, Peter. Thank you, Nadir. It's been really nice speaking to you guys, and I think like revisiting parts of our relationship is always nice.
Yeah. Enjoyed it thoroughly. Yeah. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Nadir.
No, it was so much fun, and I'm going to keep in touch with Anurag to kind of figure what his next milestone is, so we can compare notes and say, hey, this happened with you, hey, same here.
Listen, since we're all music lovers in common, I just hope we all meet at a music concert before anything
Yeah,
else,
we actually met it at a gig, Peter.
Yeah, that was like the weirdest thing when I realized that. So yeah, let's.
Anurag, Janab, once again, thank you so much. It was a great conversation we had, and what better time there to have it, in Feb during Valentine's Day. So once again, from Peter and myself, thank you very much, and we hope to connect soon.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, all the stories that you hear about 2020, right? I'm so glad that we actually found this story of 2020, and such a positive story. I mean, I don't think anyone wants to go back to 2020, but this couple, I'm sure they'll always go back to 2020.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's such an unconventional love story also, right? Let's be honest. We've heard so many things about 2020. I mean, we did so many episodes and talked so much about 2020. And here's that one story that, the moment I heard it, I was like, we have to have them on the podcast. So it was such a pleasure talking to both Anurag and Jaanam.
Yeah, I mean, they're very sweet. They're genuine people who clearly fell in love in the most unconventional manner. But it doesn't matter, right? I mean, we say love is blind, and this is what happens. This is one of the examples, true examples. And even when I have to compare it to my situation back in 2012, I mean, that's exactly what happens. And this is something I've learned from my wife, where she says, never say never. And probably at that time I would say, never will I do anything on a Facebook or social media. And look what happened to me. So I totally relate to it.
Which reminds me, I should say that to you next time you say something like this on the podcast. But that's kind of wrapping up at least the 2 episodes we did on relationships here in India specific, right? I hope you guys are enjoying this. It's a bit of a deviation from our usual parenting content. But, at the end of the day, we love telling stories and sharing stories with all of you. So when you hear a story like Anurag's and Jaanam's, you definitely have to get them, right?
Yeah, I mean, more such stories, I'm sure not just us, but everyone who's listening to our podcast would enjoy. And who doesn't want to hear a story about meeting somebody so randomly during the pandemic, dating in the pandemic, long distance in the pandemic, living together during the pandemic, meeting the parents during the pandemic, and then finally getting married during the pandemic. And the pandemic is still here. They were very well married, living together, and the pandemic is still here. So yeah, I think it's a great story.
As always, if you are keen on listening to more great stories like this from more guests as well as Nadir and me, you know where to find us. You've got our website, popsinapod.in. You can reach out to us at popsinapod@gmail.com.
And you can also follow us on social media like Facebook or Instagram. Just search for Pops in a Pod and we'll be right there. We try and put up some fun stuff on social media, but we're pretty regular with our episode updates. So if you have a fun story, if you know somebody who has a great story, or if you know 2 people who have a great story to share, then just send them our way, and we'll talk to them and we'll have a nice chat and listen to their story. Until next week, see you guys, and this is Nadir Pop
And Peter Pop. See you then.